The concept to get more bang out of the buck, or in our case the drum stroke, has always been very popular. The 2-for-1 principle has provoked many interpretations from many drummers and many descriptions such as push-pull motion, reverse stroke, drop bounce technique, dual pulls, valving technique, one-handed rolls, and so on and so on. All these techniques are based on the principles of the free stroke, finger technique, and the molar stroke technique, but add some new elements by combining them with each other. Which one of these techniques appeal to a drummer is very individual. And since I find some of them rather fancy but not very effective in performance, I will show you the ones I find the most practical and also introduce you to some of my own interpretations of that concept. When playing 60 notes with one hand and German grip at a certain speed, most drummers naturally and without much thinking start to accent every other note and divide the strokes into up and down strokes. This motion is a natural expression of the push-pull concept as we alternate between a downstroke, which is a pushing motion, and an upstroke, which is a pulling motion. As we break this motion down, we can see that the downstroke is generated by the motion of the forearm and the upstroke by a snap of the wrist, similar to a low molar stroke. The smaller motion of the wrist happens automatically as a reaction to the bigger movement of the forearm as we wind up for the next downbeat. It kind of looks like the transmission of a locomotive, which clearly illustrates the push-pull motion. But as I bring the tempo up more, even this motion will reach a threshold where it becomes hard to keep up with without getting into convulsions. In order to pass this threshold, we have to find a way to streamline this motion and make it more economic by using smaller muscles. The first possibility can be understood easily by going back to the low molar pumping motion. As the motion of the wrist is the big motion, the resulting bounces are the small motion. The wrist plays the accent, the bounces follow. As you reduce the pumping motion from playing one accent with 3 bounces to one accent with 2 bounces, to one accent with 1 bounce. At this point, that second note is just a controlled bounce. I call this the abbreviated molar, or the abbreviated molar Mayer. As I slow down, you can see that the downstroke very much looks like a free stroke. The stick is flying back into the up position while my hand still is in the down position. Simultaneously with the drop of the stick, I snap my wrist up again. The motion is basically the opening and closing of the hand. Now, you can also assist this motion while coordinating the up motion of the wrist with a quick snap of the fingers. So you create an alternating motion between wrist and fingers. Once again, it's the concept of maximum control with minimal influence and constant release. The quicker we can alternate between tension and release, the more effective the execution. If you want to go even faster than this, you will have to downsize the movement once again and use even smaller muscle groups. In other words, you're moving the actions to the fingers only. As I searched for the best solution for that problem, I started to develop a way that combines the valving technique with the abbreviated Mayer-Moller. The term valving technique comes from trumpet players. It describes the alternating finger movements they use to operate the valves on the trumpet. So this is my own version of doing that. When you hold the stick in the fulcrum between the thumb and the third joint of the index finger, you can move the stick with either your index finger or your middle finger. Or you can alternate between index finger and ring finger. Don't squeeze the stick, just let it hang loosely so it can move freely. A good exercise is to alternate this technique with the previous one. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. At some point, the two techniques will roll into one and create a very powerful combination. Another possibility that works in the French grip goes like this. This is how it works. Hold the stick in French grip, thumbs facing up. Pull the stick up with your fingers so it comes into a position parallel to the striking surface. Notice that I bend the thumb as I do this. Throw the stick down by quickly extending the fingers and let the stick come all the way back up again while you keep your fingers extended. Get the stick up all the way. Finally, get the second note by snapping your fingers back up, bringing the stick back into the starting position again. So this whole sequence is a repetition of two motions only, the push and the pull motion of the fingers and thumb. Push, pull, push, pull. Although it is possible to do this without the bending of the thumb, it adds a lot of power to the technique. The thumb adds momentum to the downstroke as it helps to throw the stick down, and by snapping the thumb back up, it gets out of the way of the returning stick, which extends the leverage of the upstroke from the stick a lot. So, other than the pretty remarkable speed you can get from this technique, a nice thing is that once you master it, it works regardless of rebound on any surface. If you have troubles to get even up and down strokes and get stuck with some sort of a 8-note shuffle like this, put your focus more on constantly releasing the contractions after every beat and get even spaces between the notes. Practice to release as fast as you can contract. your execution will only be as fast as either of these motions. The bottom line is, easy does it. Relax. The idea is to get more for less. At this point, you should have a better understanding on how these techniques work. So let me also show you some applications for the traditional grip. I believe that these are the best solutions I could find so far. As with the match grip, let's start from a low molar pumping motion. Reduce the pumping motion from playing one accent with 3 bounces to one accent with 2 bounces to one accent with 1 bounce. Now you get some sort of a swiveling action of the hand with a rotation of the radius ulnar. Like the molar stroke, the impulse for the downstroke is generated from the elbow. You throw the hand out on the downbeat and bring it back up for the bounce on the upbeat. Notice that as the hand turns from side to side, the tip of the stick stays in place. The axis of the rotation plays from the tip of the stick, which aligns with the rotation of the radius ulnar, not the fulcrum. As with the molar stroke, focus primarily on the downstroke and just let the rest happen by itself. If you tighten the grip in the fulcrum a little bit, this technique will also work on a surface that has no rebound. I got the inspiration for this from Han Bennick, who was the first drummer I saw using a very similar technique a couple of years ago. It's a very powerful move that creates velocity with a very big sound. You can also streamline this motion and make it more economic. By eliminating the action of the elbow, you can reduce the motion to a simple turn of the radius ulnar. Open up the grip between thumb and the index finger and rest the thumb directly on the stick as you throw the stick inwards. This technique is basically a reversed or upside down version of the previous one, as on the downbeat, you throw the stick inwards. The thumb can also assist the motion with a little squeeze on the upbeat, but the motion is mainly generated from the rotation of the radius and the ulnar. This is my personal favorite solution for the traditional grip. When you minimize this motion some more, it will turn into some sort of a drop bounce, where you create the motion simply from contracting and releasing your fingers. Control the lift of the upstroke by kicking the stick up from underneath with the fingers and the downstroke with the pressure of the fulcrum and the thumb. Just release and catch. There's one more variation of the push-pull for the traditional grip. Dribble the stick on the upbeat by using a snap of the index finger and the middle finger. This technique was also used by the late and great Buddy Rich. You can also put more power into this move by using your wrist in sync with the snapping of the fingers. Since it's possible to lift the stick with your fingers, this version also depends less on rebound than the previous example. It will perform as well on a snare drum as on a pillow.